3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. So glad you're on board with us. Another very hot afternoon across, well, America.
No one's exempt.
98 degrees I have today, so even hotter than yesterday. I tweeted this out last night. This is not a euphemism. I took my dogs out last night.
Right.
10. It was. I looked because I put it on Twitter when I walked out with them. It was 10:47. It was 87 degrees, man, at 10:47.
Merciless.
I walked out and it
merciless.
hit me. Sometimes it hits you like an oven, but you don't expect that late. You know. I know that's not late, but I mean 87, and I was like, oh my god! And so I looked, I said, check my timestamp. But then 2 minutes later, I said, but the Braves won, so that's good. Because the Braves beat the Mets for the 5th straight time. Spencer Strider, only 5 innings, but had, 8 Ks?
Yep, 8 strikeouts, went over.
And the Braves had a comeback win. Braves were down 3-0 and came back to win 7-4. I got a little nervous, Elijah Campbell, because the tying run did come to the plate in the bottom of the 9th. But the Braves held on.
Because they were playing the Mets, and that is their piñata.
It is.
So it's always fun to beat up on your piñata.
Here for it. A lot to get to on today's program. A great friend of the show. Has been a little while, but we're happy to have him back. Coach Chad Holbrook is going to be with us. Of course, now, after his run at South Carolina, has been at the College of Charleston ever since. But he also coached Whit Merrifield here in Columbia and knows Whit well. And yesterday, if you didn't hear it, I guess it was mid-afternoon, right about
as we were ending the show.
Yeah. Whit announced his retirement from Major League Baseball after 9 very successful seasons, including a couple of years where he led the major leagues in hits. And he did this thing that they used to do apparently like back in the black and white days, He stole bases, which now seems criminal.
Stole over 200 of them.
Yeah.
In his career.
And so versatile. But he's hung them up. But we'll reminisce with Chad about Whit's time here in Columbia. And we might get into a few other notable college baseball news items that have taken place recently.
Surely nothing controversial.
No, nothing controversial. No, nothing. We don't like to do that around here.
Yeah, the sport hasn't made anybody mad.
But looking forward to talking to Coach Holbrook. He'll come up bottom of the hour, so about a half hour from now. Looking forward to talking with Chad. Lots to get to today. Elijah the EBPI is in full effect as Elijah gets us ready for tonight's NBA draft, where Gamecock star Colin Murray-Boyles, AC Flora star Colin Murray-Boyles, is expected to go inside the top 20, maybe inside the top 15, maybe an outside chance still at the top 10, depending on who's picking where. I mean, we've seen projections that have him 8, 9, 10. Feels like most of them are more like 12 to 16. Depending on where you like to look, But later on, Elijah will break it down and talk about fit. The Celtics continue to make moves. Now, Elijah was telling me he's got a couple of friends that do some things around NBA basketball, and that maybe my theory yesterday about the Celtics will not become a reality.
Maybe not in today's NBA.
I was saying that I think the Celtics are salary dumping a couple of guys because they're going big game hunting. But alas,
like hunting for a buck, you would say?
That's what I thought. That's
big game.
Or maybe mining for a nugget.
You could say that.
Thank you.
And not one for McDonald's either.
Alas, apparently neither of those are what the Celtics are doing. The new ownership is trying to pare things down, reset the finances, and then go big spending maybe next year once Jason Tatum is healthy again.
Yes.
So
maybe not. I don't want to say they're punting on next season, but the second apron is getting everybody. And I think Brian Windhorst on Get Up this morning referred to it as Satan's jail.
You know what? I kept hearing people talking about that. This is the kind of thing. This is why I'm glad we work together, because like when people talk about, like when I used to work with Terry, for whatever reasons, Terry knows a lot about how the salary cap in the structure in the NFL works, all that kind of stuff, and cap hit versus whatever. And I'm like, dude, how much money you got to spend, and how much does a guy want to make?
Right.
That's I don't need all this, and you can carry it over, and you got a 5-year.
So much funny money.
And what a second apron? That sounds like something like my grandmother had, like a Christmas apron.
Right. I wish it had that much of a nostalgic connotation, but it is absolutely terrifying. NBA teams right now.
I don't know what any of that means, but
think of it as just a hard cap.
Cryptic comments yesterday that we discussed from Josh Kroenke, the owner of the Denver Nuggets, at least the son of the owner of the Denver Nuggets, but Josh is basically running things these days, on offering Nikola Jokic a contract, but not necessarily knowing if he'll accept it. And does that mean if he doesn't, could he be traded? Who could afford him? Yeah, he's the best player in the NBA, but Elijah, I didn't even know this till you told me today. Nikola Jokic, who's won 3 MVPs? 2?
I believe he's won 3.
3? And an NBA title. Has never played. Now, and I guess what you mean, because people will say, well, Russell Westbrook's on the team. He's never played with someone else who made the All-Star team in the same season.
Correct.
Which is kind of mind-boggling. Now, is it because the Nuggets are thrifty and they don't want to pay anybody else, or did they think that some of those guys, Porter, Murray, Murray's good.
Murray's good, yeah. And you would think, wait, Elijah, was Jamal Murray never an All-Star? Nope. He made the All-Rookie team, but he's never been an All-Star.
But, are you anticipating blockbuster moves tonight beyond – because, look, like Cooper Flagg being drafted number 1 by Dallas tonight will not be a blockbuster move. That's we like ever since Dallas, and the NBA rigged the system.
You could bet like $1,000 on Cooper Flagg being the number 1 pick tonight. Congratulations, you'll win a dime.
Yeah, I'll say, like, what is it, like minus 10,000?
Something stupid. Yeah.
Minus. It shouldn't even take a bet.
Yeah, exactly. It's a foregone conclusion.
But we'll see. But we'll have Elijah breaking down Colin Murray-Boyles and some other guys in the SEC. Again, 4 SEC players in the top 25 best available players tonight, and it's 3 freshmen, and CMB's a sophomore. And none of the biggest names, Clayton, Broom, those guys are in the top 40, but they weren't in the top 25.
And I think Clayton goes first round tonight. I think what he did in the NCAA tournament really enamored some teams, and I think he can fit somewhere. He's got a skill set where he can get his own shot. He's a solid enough creator. But
and Janai Broom's going to get drafted in the second round.
Yeah, someone will take him in the second.
And I like what you said to us yesterday, too, speaking of the aforementioned Nikola Jokic, who was drafted in the second round as an almost afterthought.
In the middle of a quesarito commercial.
During a Taco Bell commercial. So could Janai Broom find a role somewhere? Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. And he's a good enough passer. And that's, I guess, the thing is, if you can get him to be able to facilitate an offense with his, face to the basket, a lot of his offensive creation last year came out of post-ups, so you just don't have a lot of that in the NBA. I will say if Janai Broom was maybe in the 2005 draft class instead of 2025, he's probably a lottery pick. Games has changed a lot compared to how he gets his buckets and facilitates his offense. Not a lot of teams in the NBA are running the flex, and the Auburn ran a lot of flex action last year. Outdated.
Well, speaking of things that'll make your head hurt, we later on in the show we're going to touch on this just to discuss and try to help inform a little bit. But again, it'll make your head hurt. But yesterday, Mike Florio and Pablo Torre, and we alluded to this for a second, but we knew we needed to get more information before we could talk about it. Did uncover documentation from earlier this year that had been, for whatever reasons, both the NFL and the Players Union had kind of kept it secret. But 3 years ago, give or take, the union accused the league, the owners, of collusion. And in the CBA, there is a mechanism for an arbitrator to come in when there's an accusation of something like that on either side. To come in and hear it. And apparently this arbitrator, while not agreeing with the accusation of collusion, did find that, and the words were, there was a concerted action from NFL owners to suppress certain signing bonuses and fully guaranteed contracts really for anybody. But this was after Jimmy Haslam had signed Deshaun Watson to his fully guaranteed contract.
The first of its kind.
And then every quarterback up for renewal was like, well, if Deshaun is getting it. And the one that I think is most striking, with all due respect to Kyler Murray, the one that is most striking and the one that I really do believe kind of proves collusion, but I get why I read enough and heard Pablo on Dan Patrick to know why they couldn't get all the way to proving collusion. I'm not saying, but Lamar Jackson told the Ravens, hey, I want a fully guaranteed contract. And at that point, he had only won one MVP. Now he has his second one. But and when he and his agent basically said, all right, well, what do we do about it? He got no offers. Now, any of you, I don't. It doesn't matter if you like Lamar Jackson, if you don't like dual threat quarterbacks, if you think he needs to win more in the playoffs, or you don't like the Ravens, you don't like Louisville, whatever. And most people, I think, do like Lamar Jackson. I know I'm a big fan. I'm a Broncos fan, but I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan. But no offers from any of the other 31 teams because he wanted a fully guaranteed contract? Are you really going to look me in the eye, 31 NFL teams, and tell me you have no interest in Lamar bleeping Jackson? Come on. I mean, seriously, come on. So, again, is that one thing enough to prove collusion? No, it's not. But look, we're not talking about some third-team guy. And I'm not going to name any names to hurt anybody's feelings. Well, heck, I will name a name because one of the guys involved was Russell Wilson, and at the time who was on my Broncos and wanted to renegotiate and wanted more guaranteed money, if not a fully guaranteed contract as well. I can appreciate that Russell Wilson wouldn't get offers if you were saying, making demands like that. But Lamar? Right. Lamar? Yeah. No one else is interested in Lamar.
And a transcendent
I mean, I can think of a lot of teams that have some bad quarterbacks.
A lot of teams that have quarterback question marks.
You know? Yeah, we don't want Lamar Jackson. Why?
The Giants are like, fine, we have Daniel Jones. We're good.
And speaking of the Giants, John Mara, the owner of the Giants, is quoted in one of the stories that I read today in so many words in an effort to basically say, we're not colluding. Like, can you imagine me calling Jerry Jones and saying, Jerry, don't you sign Dak Prescott to a fully guaranteed contract? And how Jerry would react. And I'm like, yeah, I get that part. You're right. So, and they're trying to say, so see, we're not colluding. It's like, okay.
There's some certain text messages between the Cardinals and Chargers owner that might reflect a little different.
Yeah, but we'll get into a little bit of that for you in just a bit. All right, speaking of guys like Lamar Jackson won the Heisman Trophy.
He did. He was really good.
And on the other side of the break, today's start bench drop is Heisman Trophy themed. So you will be starting, benching, and dropping Heisman winners. And I don't know, how do I say this? This is also maybe a generational start bench drop. Is that a way to think how this could be influenced?
There can be some generational lines drawn here.
Okay. So we'll give you the three choices coming up on the other side of the break. Chad Holbrook will join us to reminisce about Whit Merrifield's time in Columbia and just his overall thoughts of Whit's career in the Bigs and a few other things going on around college baseball. Coach Holbrook coming up in about 15 minutes or so. Lots to do on this Wednesday edition of the Postgame Show. 19 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Wednesday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Before we get you to our Heisman start, bench, drop candidates and a little talk of that. Congratulations to Kevin Schnall, Baseball America today, naming him their National Coach of the Year. 56 wins, 26-game win streak that, of course, ended with Game 1 of the finals of the College World Series. And but making it to the finals for the second time in school history. So no pressure, Kev.
Pretty significant feat.
That's what you're supposed to do every year. Win.
That's a hell of a baseline of expectation to set for the rest of your career.
50-plus games, have a long winning. You know what? I'll say you don't have to always have a 26-game win streak.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. 12, 15. You know, you got to win the Sun Belt every year now.
Expected.
You know, got to be in Omaha every year. Right? I'm telling you, man, expectations change quickly.
They do.
But they got a good program.
He's prepared for it.
Yeah.
He seems like one of those guys that I don't think the expectation within that program will ever slip.
It's all about Cruton. All about Cruton. All right, so start, bench, drop. Yesterday's was fun. Today, yesterday's, by the way, was SEC hot seat coaches. And by and large, I guess most of you, and I said it too, Elijah didn't, which makes Elijah wrong. Most of us said Brent Venables had the hottest seat. So he was our starter. And then I guess it was a pretty good mix between Billy Napier and Brian Kelly for who got benched and dropped. I started Venables, benched Kelly, dropped Napier. And you were the reverse, and so in the sense you had Kelly in the middle as well on the bench.
Yep. Kelly benched a lot yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I thought our buddy Alan Cole helped. I was probably going to drop Kelly until Alan Cole changed my mind. When Alan talked about how Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson have a combined 3 national championships in the same amount of time they've been on campus in Baton Rouge as Brian Kelly. And that Brian Kelly has, look, while Brian Kelly's been there, he's had a Heisman winner and a if not a record-setting offense, certainly an electrifying offense under Jaden a couple of years ago.
An offense that was definitely deserving of winning more than 9
and
games.
Averaged what? They averaged like 40 points a game, right?
Highest scoring offense in the country that year. Yep.
But you only won what, 9 times?
Yeah.
And I know only, but you gotta take that Heisman winning offense to at least the Final Four.
And then you see what Jaden Daniels has done since he's been in the NFL, and you're like, how does that guy? You put that guy on a college team, and they only won 9 games.
Yeah. So now they did go. They went to the SEC title game
in 22.
Yeah. Lost to Georgia.
Yep. Yeah. And I think they scored 31 points in that game, too.
Yeah.
They just gave up 50-plus.
They couldn't tackle anybody.
That should never happen at a school like LSU.
Not LSU.
Ever. That should never happen at a school like LSU. The school that, Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson took to a national title game at quarterback.
Right.
That won a national title with Matt Mock. Like that's who they've won with. They have won with significantly less.
Jaden Daniels, man.
I think Matt Flynn was the quarterback on the 07 team that won the national title.
If Washington does it the right way, that dude's on to something brilliant.
They have an electrifying quarterback on a rookie deal, man.
He's special.
They've put themselves in a window. That draft pick put them in a window.
Yeah, he's special. Yeah, I like watching him play. My wife doesn't because she's a Dallas fan, but
you just got to see him twice a year.
Yeah. My oldest daughter's boyfriend grew up in the D.C. area, and he's a massive Washington fan, so he's very excited.
He should be. When was the last time, especially in his lifetime?
Probably, nah, man. And all he knows is the crappiness of the Dan Snyder years. That's all he knows. His father, who's also a big Washington fan, knows the glory of the 80s and 90s.
He's gotten to experience his team winning Super Bowls. His poor son has not.
Has not. All right, speaking of Heisman winners, again, we talked about Lamar earlier, then we just talked about Jaden. So today's start, bench, drop, these Heisman-winning SEC tailback megastars in alphabetical order. Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker. I won't say mine. I think I know mine. But again, it depends on who you watched or what you know, how old you might be. Look, they all won the Heisman Trophy, right? Mm-hmm. And Henry won a title, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so two of them won a title.
Henry and Herschel won titles.
They won titles. Bo didn't win a title, but Bo was good, man.
And
by good, I mean Bo was, whew.
I will say, like, looking through it, so when I did the kind of the breakdown on my sheet here, I kind of looked at what they did for their careers and what was your best season.
Right.
And, buddy, when you go back and look, I think just because that Alabama team was so dominant, we remember them for all the stars they had, and they've never really had to rely on one player.
Right.
But that 2015 season for Derrick Henry is maybe one of the 4 or 5 best individual seasons in the history of college football. That man was unstoppable that season.
And the thing, it's funny because this piggybacks off of a conversation you and I were having, a week or two ago when I was a little kid. And you had the run it was the golden age of tailbacks in college football. You had Archie Griffin win back-to-backs, then Tony Dorsett, and then I think it was Billy Sims, Earl Campbell. I might have those two reversed, but there was those two guys. Then Charles White, then George Rogers, then Marcus Allen, then Herschel Walker, then Mike Rozier. And then again, the anomaly, the outlier, was little Doug Flutie in '84.
It's hilarious that the one quarterback that wins the Heisman, that stretch of running backs, is Doug Flutie, the ultimate little engine that could. And
then Bo in '85, and then we still had some running backs win, but I think it was Testaverde in '86. And I think Tim Brown. I think then Barry, right? But then Andre Ware had one, and Toretta had one. I know Rashawn Salam had one.
Ricky Williams,
Eddie George. And again, I've said before, I think Eddie George was the last of that, really just that mold of just straight up runner, large man, linebacker-sized man almost, that could run, like the wind. Everybody knew who was getting the ball every time, but it was just a golden age. But I'm telling you, that time from when I was a little kid till I was in high school. I started high school in '85. Just again, except for Flutie.
And it's funny now. Now it's almost a quarterback specific award, except for this year. But I feel like
by and large,
should have won it. But in the BCS era, I believe the only Heisman winners since the institution of actual championship games has been Ricky Williams, Reggie Bush, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry. I think those are the only 4
that are true tailbacks. Yeah. Is there? God, really?
I want to say that was it because I was doing.
So we've had some receivers start winning now, right? Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith, and I remember back in I want to say it was around late October, early November when the Heisman conversation really starts to heat up. I was trying to see where every one of those running backs was in comparison to Ashton Jeanty, and the only running back out of those guys where I was genuinely like, oh, Jeanty might not catch this guy, was Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Well, it could be a tough one today. I don't know. For some, it, again, might depend on your age, but
if you don't mind putting your age in your responses, this is kind of a sociological study. I think we placed on ourselves too, because that was the discussion we had. We said how many people would just drop Derrick Henry because they watched Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker.
So start bench drop, Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, Heisman-winning SEC running backs. So that'll be fun. All right, come back on the other side. Whit Merrifield announcing his retirement from Major League Baseball yesterday, and obviously got his stardom started helping South Carolina win its first ever national championship, quite literally the game-winning hit against UCLA back in 2010. One of the guys who was on the bench that night was our good friend Chad Holbrook, and the coach will join us talking about Whit and more when the post-game show returns. Cato's Power Equipment ready to help you make your yard look fantastic all summer long. But they do want to remind you that on days like this, it's really, really hot, and you need to be very careful. Sometimes they'll close the shop down a little bit early on days like this when it's just too hot to be doing yard work. So if you need them, CatosPowerEquipment.com. Stop by early, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard. But what you do need to do is make sure, whether you do it for yourself or you do it for a living, that you got yourself fitted into the absolute best in power tools, whether it's push mowers, walk-behind mowers, riding mowers, edgers, trimmers, blowers, chainsaws, pole saws, you name it, they've got it for you. And I talk about this a bunch. You can go to a big box store, get those things, but when you go to Cato's, it's like going to a tailor for your clothes and your suits. They will fit you into the perfect one. You can hold it, you can see it, you can feel it, you can talk with the experts about what it does. That's what I did, and I am so happy with my Toro equipment. I think you will be too. Family owned and operated since the 1980s. That's Cato's Power Equipment. .334 on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Got a lot to get to today. NBA Draft tonight. Gamecock Colin Murray Boyles expected to go relatively high. First round pick, likely. in nearly 20 years from the South Carolina basketball team. So we'll get into more of that from Elijah's perspective in just a little bit. But as promised, it's always a pleasure to talk to our good friend Chad Holbrook, the former assistant coach and head coach at the South Carolina Gamecocks and now the longtime head coach at the College of Charleston. And he is about to welcome one of his sons onto the team. It's great to have you, sir, as it always is.
Thanks for having me, Jay. Pleasure to talk to you.
What was it like? What was the conversation like amongst the family when this was being decided? And the first time you have to yell as a coach, are you going to get yelled at as a husband?
Well, I've yelled at him plenty of times, so it won't be a first. And yeah, I might giveth and receiveth. I mean, that's part of it. But no, it was just one of those things in where, he wanted a chance to play a little bit more than he played at North Carolina. And not to say that's going to happen here, but, the position that he plays, our top four outfielders, did graduate and left. So opportunity's a little bit greater here with what we lost off of our current team. And, yeah, and, honestly, as a family, I didn't get to see him play a lot. When I left Columbia, he stayed at Hammond, and the high school games were often going on at the same time my team down here was playing. And, I obviously didn't get to see him play at all in college because of our schedule. And so I've not been around him much for like the last 6 or 7 years. And so it's going to be very refreshing to be around him daily and watch him practice. I'll get as much joy in that and just being around him and watching him practice and his love for the game than I will anything. And hopefully he's good enough to fight his way in there. If he's not, he'll help me coach, I guess. But it's exciting for us. It's exciting for our family, and it's exciting for me because I've missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
So.
That's neat. That's cool.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And, I think it was late yesterday, really our last segment of the show, Jay, when Whit Merrifield announced his retirement, and obviously somebody that you coached and had a lot of success with and one of the better players in the history of this program. I just want to go ahead and lead off with this, asking you what are maybe some of your best memories of Whit and watching him not just do what he did in a Gamecock uniform, which was special, but go on to have a really successful career in the majors for a long time.
Well, Whit was a baseball junkie, and he got incredible instincts for the game, and it went so much of the talent, the real talent that he possesses. You can't measure it on a stopwatch, or you can't measure it based on power or how strong his arm is. You have to watch the kid play over time. His instincts, how he runs the bases, how he plays defense, both in the outfield and the infield. He might not look like Ronald Acuna when he's taking BP and hit balls, 500 feet. But you watch him over time and you start to appreciate how good a fundamentally sound player he is with phenomenal instincts. He was obviously taught the game so greatly by his dad, Bill, and his dad was a great player in his own right. And he was just brought up in a baseball house. And, sometimes, even as a coach, we overlooked how good a player he really is and was, because instinctually and his fundamentals was as good as any kid that I've ever been around.
Did you know, that he was going to become as prolific a hitter and base stealer at the next level? You get a lot more games and a lot more opportunities, but you can't steal bases if you're not on base. And obviously he was really good at what he did. But what did you see in him in Columbia that you knew would happen, and what might have surprised you most about what he became?
Well, what surprised me is, you can never predict a kid going to be in the big leagues. And I'll share with you a conversation I had with him after his long stint in AAA, before he had played one day in the big leagues. And this is a really, really neat story. But so on his first call up, he was playing in Omaha, Nebraska, and we're a place that treated Whit awfully well and treated us awfully well. But he was playing in Omaha. He got the call up. So, he had grinded it out. And he drove to Omaha, Nebraska, and he is in the parking lot at the stadium, walking in. Now, think about this. His family's on the flights on the way to Kansas City. He's walking in to the locker room, and he gets a call from the GM. He looks at his phone. He thinks it's probably a congratulatory thing. Before he even put on the uniform, he gets a call from the GM saying, "Hey, Whit, we got to send you back down. We need an extra pitcher for the doubleheader for tonight. So he got called up on the day of his first call up. And it was been a grind for him, up to that point in AAA. And he had to turn around and drive back to Omaha. And on that way back, he had conversations with a number of different people that he thinks world of, and he was going to hang it up before he'd ever played a day in the big leagues. He's going to shut it down. That moment ripped his heart out. And luckily, Bill Merrifield, his dad, and he said, "Hey, you stick this thing out. You stick," and he convinced him to stick it out. And then he goes on to have an incredible big league career, and but he could easily, if it wasn't for his confidence and belief in himself, and that was what I was going to say was the most impressive thing about Whit that I've, again, that was different than everyone else, was the confidence and belief he had in himself that he was really, really, really good. And we had a dilemma one day at South Carolina with two great outfielders, Whit Merrifield and Jackie Bradley Jr., and we had to decide which one was playing center. And we put, Coach Tanner made the decision to put Jackie in center, and boy, Whit was not happy. And everybody says, well, Jackie's a Gold Glove center fielder. Yeah, he was great, and he is great. But Whit believed he was as good. He just believed that he was as good as anybody on the field, and it did not matter who he was practicing with or who he was playing with, and he just felt like he was always the best. Until one time he called me and said that Bobby Witt Jr. is the most impressive thing he's ever seen on the baseball field. So I think he conceded to Bobby Witt Jr. But he just the confidence he had in himself and the belief he had in himself was unmatched.
Yeah, and one last thing on Whit, too. He's got arguably the most iconic plays in the history of South Carolina athletics, not just baseball. We ran a poll last summer, Chad, or at least, a series of contests of fans to vote on their favorite Gamecock moments of the 21st century. And Whit's hit to win the College World Series for the first time, ran away with that competition. So what was kind of your memory of that play leading up to it? How much confidence did you have that Whit was going to put that thing in the outfield and bring home a title? And what was, I guess, kind of your thought process as he's standing up there at the plate?
Well, I knew it was a nervous thought process. I can assure you that. It wasn't nervous because I didn't believe in Whit. It was nervous that I was going to have to make a decision to tell Wingo to tag up on a shallow fly ball and get winning runs thrown out at home. There was all kinds of things going through my head. But he was the right guy at the right time. If you could have ever had that spot scripted, and you would and not that we didn't want, Christian Walker had incredible hits and got us there, and with the home run against Coastal Carolina, and obviously the next year a home run against Connecticut. But Christian had huge hits, but Whit was the right man in the right spot at that time, just because the matchup was great. He has a slow heartbeat. The moment was not ever going to be too big for Whit, no matter what the situation was. I remember standing at third base and telling Wingo that, hey, no matter what, if a ball's hitting the air, whether it's 2 inches off the ground or 200 feet, make sure you get back to the base and tag up and don't leave early. And it was, I knew at that time, hey, we were 90 feet away from a national championship. But I also knew that we had the right guy in the batter's box. And he was a great bunter, too. And I kept wondering if Coach was going to put on a safety squeeze. So I was worried. I'm making sure we're getting all the signs. And there's a lot going on in those, minute and a half or 2 minutes. We were 90 feet away. But we put a great swing on it against a great pitcher, and the rest is history. But he's going to go down as one of the greatest of all time and one of the biggest moments in Gamecock athletics at all time. And I was just lucky to be in third base coaching box, observe it, and be a part of it. And it still feels like yesterday to me. Yeah. And I'm sure it does for a lot of Gamecock fans as well.
No doubt. Yeah, all those years ago. Coach, I'm up against a break, but I got other things I want to get to. Can I impose upon you to hold on so we can get you a few more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great.
Absolutely.
All right, appreciate that. All right, Coach Chad Holbrook is joining us, reminiscing about Whit, but I want to get to a few things that happened in Omaha not 15 years ago, but a couple of days ago.
Something totally not controversial at all.
See what Coach thinks about that. You're listening to the Postgame Show. All right, welcome back. Final few minutes of our first hour. Appreciate Coach Chad Holbrook holding on the line there during that commercial break, wanting to talk a few things around college baseball. Again, we've gotten into the notion that as his son Reese joins the College of Charleston roster, that Mrs. Holbrook will not yell at her husband as far as he knows. We'll find out about that next spring sometime. No, good nights to do that. And reminiscing about Whit Merrifield's retirement from Major League Baseball yesterday after a fantastic career that saw him lead the bigs in hits twice, saw him steal more than 200 bases in his career. What a fantastic ride that he has had. Now he's a dad, too, so that's pretty cool. Chad, before we get you out of here, I know you got to be careful as a sitting head coach in the NCAA, but your thoughts on what you saw Sunday afternoon in Game 2 of the series finale with the home plate situation. And I'll tell you real quick, Elijah and I have said, look, there's blame to go around with the umpire, with Coastal's head coach Kevin Schnall, maybe even with the folks that assign umpires in games like this. But as someone who has truly been a college baseball lifer, how did you see it?
Well, it's unfortunate that we are spending a lot of time talking about the umpiring situation and not about two great teams in the great year that Coastal had in the national championship that LSU won. That should be the focus. And I think the thing that kind of sickens me about it is it takes away from what those kids did between the white lines. And college baseball should always be about the players and their performance and their talent and their ability. And unfortunately, we're not discussing much of that. And it's just part of it. So I actually watched the game, the first inning, and I kind of honestly it put a bad taste in my mouth, and I kind of had to walk away because I knew what Kevin was going through. I mean, when you're in a situation like that, emotions are high. To me, as part of an umpire's job is to understand that, even maybe talk to him about diffusing it a little bit, calm everybody down, those kind of things. You have to have a bit of a feel that, hey, emotions are going to be high tonight. And if we have a call or we have a situation like this, it's not personal. Let's try to diffuse it. Let's not do anything where it's all going to be about us and everybody's going to talk about, and I can guarantee you all those people in that stadium didn't come to see that guy umpire. They came to see, the team's play and the coach's coach for some, at some point. So it's just disappointing. I mean, it's just disappointing. It could have been handled such in a better way. And I hate that it didn't. And I think the thing bothers me a little bit, and I don't know, I hadn't done all the research on it, but in reading, if what I'm reading is correct, it seemed to be like a little bit of history there in regards to some controversial ejections. And I believe that same umpire ejected Canarella a couple years ago in a regional against Tennessee. And a lot of people also believe that that he was a major league umpire that kind of got dismissed for very similar type, occurrences. So it's kind of a shame if that's the case, which I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but if that's the case, it's a shame that he's put in that situation, and something like that occurred because it's just, it should be about the players. We're all in this business, and we all have jobs. The umpires have jobs. The coaches have jobs. The administrators, everybody has jobs because of the baseball players. And I think that got lost a little bit, and the emotions got too high, and it got the best of two men. But I'll make a point here that the coaches coach for a living. It's their only job, and their livelihoods many times are on the line, obviously. So emotions are high. I mean, he's trying to cement a legacy and win a national championship for his school, and I mean, there's a lot on the line there. And and umpires, and it's hard game to umpire. It is a hard game, and but they don't. It's not a full-time gig for them. They have to do other things to make ends meet. So therefore, you should also expect, like, hey, these coaches are going to be wired a little differently, for this game. National TV, all eyes are on it. I've been there. I've experienced it. I know how the emotions are, and I just wish, and I think part of an umpire's job, and I'm not I don't know. I wasn't on the field, so I don't know the language that was used per se or everything that was said. But I do believe, in general terms, that the umpire's job in those situations is to diffuse moments like that and calmly talk through things, and maybe cooler heads will prevail. Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Chad, great stuff, man. Good to catch up with you. Have a great summer. We'll holler at you soon, all right?
Thanks so much for having me, Jay.
You bet. That's Coach Chad Holbrook. Bye. Hour 2 of the postgame show coming up. 4 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. We are inside the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, wherever you might be. Thank you for being with us. Hope you're staying cool, staying hydrated. Drink lots of water.
Yeah, it's hot again.
Not other things. Well, you can drink other things. You can.
But
Just
water has
mix
to be in
water.
that mix. Yeah.
Not just a Mike Yuba commercial.
No, this is a public service announcement because it is 98 degrees right now.
Yeah.
And
it feels like 1,000.
Well, it feels like,
Yes.
That's what it feels like.
I just like to say it feels like 137.
It feels like terror.
So, yeah, that's right. And I'm telling you, man, last night I was outside with the dogs a little before 11, before it was time for this old man to hit the hay. 87 degrees just before 11 o'clock.
Don't like it. I'm not built for it.
Nope. And I live here. Like I'm from here. And but you know, it is. We're in a heat wave. It's not supposed to be this hot right now. It is supposed to be this hot like in August.
Late July and August.
Which again comes back around as we have some football themes to talk about. This is why I cannot call training camp around here fall camp. I get it in relation to like what spring is, but I can't
in the semester. It is technically in the fall semester.
Yeah, but please, you cannot call August in South Carolina fall camp because there ain't nothing fall about it except fall down because of the heat.
Now,
which I don't want anybody to do.
The only way we could more grossly characterize the temperature of the camp at that time is if we called it winter camp.
Yeah, right. Well, at that point, you're just being absurd. That's like you and me as we've come up with the term the 0th week of the season. Like people will say, oh, week 0 is fine. Okay, what if we call it the 0th week? Well, that's dumb. Well, there's really no difference.
0th week.
The 0th week. Looking forward to the 0th week.
Yeah, can't wait to turn that bit back on.
Isn't there a game in Ireland in the 0th week?
Yeah, Kansas State's playing there, I think. I can't remember who they're playing.
Yeah, I forget the matchup, but I did joke and say nothing says football in Ireland like whoever they got playing each other over there.
Should always, like last year was Florida State and Georgia Tech.
Right. If George O'Leary was still coaching Georgia Tech,
it would make sense if we have Irish head coaches or Irish quarterbacks.
George O'Leary. Or if Notre Dame was playing.
Or Notre Dame.
Yeah. Or something like that.
I feel like Notre Dame and Boston College should always be the game that's
why not?
In Ireland.
Why not? You get your two. Well, I don't know if Boston College ranks as the number 2 Catholic school in the country. Probably.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's not my theological war fight.
I'm not sure either. I mean, I'm going to give Notre Dame.
I'll accuse myself from ranking the Catholic schools.
I'm going to give Notre Dame its due. Right, and we've got prominent Catholic schools throughout the Big East.
The Pope did go to Villanova, so I guess we can move Villanova up that list.
Yeah, Nova, Georgetown, St. John's, but BC is in a power conference, so I just nod to BC. That's up to somebody.
Athletics prominence.
We'll let the Pope decide.
Honestly. I mean, we've never had a pope in the history of planet Earth that's been more in tune with the sports world. If he would like
at least in America.
Yeah. If he would like to rank Catholic schools based on athletic prominence combined with
I mean, Notre Dame's going to win, but who is number 2? I mean, Notre Dame is going to come out on top of that list.
The football side of that helps a lot. But I'm
right.
saying all-encompassing. And he might be a little biased. He might put Villanova there pretty high, but they've won 2 national championships.
Under Jay Wright. They won one in 85. You know, when Georgetown was at the height of their powers, it was Nova that also won one, man. Yeah. Georgetown was supposed to win a whole mess of them.
That was like, what, the 80-some% shooting night?
Something like that.
Something stupid. Something wild. Played the perfect game.
So, anyway, that'll be another start bench drop one day.
If we ever get the Pope on, we're going to have him do start bench drop.
That's right.
Notre Dame, Villanova, Boston College.
That's right. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, today's start bench drop, and we're off to a roaring start, but I don't know if this is going to, we'll see. But today's start bench drop is Heisman-winning SEC tailbacks. And remember, we give you these in alphabetical order when they're names. We give them to you in chronological order if they are events. So today we're giving it to you alphabetically: Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker. two of these guys, Henry and Walker, won both SEC and national championships, and Bo is, Bo.
Well, he knows.
He does.
I think that's the important.
And I think, without saying too much here, I think, Elijah and I were saying this is up to the individual that ranks these. So there's no wrong way to do this. Some of you may look at it solely from what these guys did while they were in the Southeastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
Others may take a larger, big picture look, And in that case, you could maybe say so one of these guys might fall down the list if you look at the big picture, right? Relative to what he may have done in the SEC. And I'm not going to name names. So it all just it's up to you. No wrong answers. Don't feel any guilt. Sometimes it's hard. We make it hard on purpose. That's why you got to drop somebody.
I am surprised with the results we've gotten, though.
Yeah. So you want to give a few real quick?
Yeah,
let's just give a little sample size. We'll not go too deep into it. We got other things. We'll do it throughout the day, but we'll give you a little sample.
We have one nameless texter who says, I'm 34, but I'd start Bo, bench Derek, drop Herschel.
Okay.
Trey, age 42.
Okay.
Says he's starting Bo Jackson, benching Derrick Henry, dropping Herschel Walker.
Okay.
And then we have Chad, didn't give an age, but he did say, start Bo, 2 sports star. You just have to do it. The Nike ad campaign was awesome. Bench Henry, phenomenal back. Drop Walker. He's a dog.
Okay, there you go.
George.
That's
But
fine.
that has been the predominant order so far. 7 of the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 7 of the 12 have been starting Bo Jackson, benching Derrick Henry, dropping Herschel Walker.
All right, and we got a few on Twitter that we'll get to as well. Yeah, the Bo Jackson commercial campaigns of the late 80s when he was playing everything. And I always remember, where's that Tour de France thing? They had him in his little bike helmet and on the bike,
Love that.
Yeah, he was a hockey player, track, tennis, golf, you name it, man. He could have been, wow.
He's just one of those athletes. I mean, you invent a sport, he will be good at it. And Bo Jackson could have picked up cricket one day and been the best in the world.
Yeah, probably so, dude. I've said this too, and the good news is they both won the Heisman Trophy, but I do call into question in today's Heisman voting world, of which I am fortunate enough to be a part. I don't know, Elijah, if George Rogers and Bo Jackson win the Heisman Trophy because their teams but they won 8 games the years they won the Heisman. And now I think so many voters really put a lot on kind of best players on the best teams. Like, are you in the CFP? Or did you win a conference title? It's rare to have.
Thankfully, we've gotten out of that the last 2 years.
I can't say a little bit. I think we maybe and it ebbs and flows a little bit.
Jason White winning the Heisman over Larry Fitzgerald still bugs me.
Yeah,
I was 8 years old and I had no emotional connection to Oklahoma or Pittsburgh, and I was furious.
A couple of days ago, I was looking at the Heisman list, and I swear, if you had given me 1,000 chances. Like, if I could have gotten every other Heisman winner, filled into their year, and I can't do all of them, obviously. I can do a lot of them, but not all of them. But I swear, Elijah Campbell, if you had given me 1,000, Jay, you got one Heisman winner left. Because what year was that, 03?
03, yep, that would have been 03.
I'd have been I wouldn't have gotten it. I would not have remembered that he won the Heisman. I'm telling you, I would not.
You say Jason White's more of a forgettable Heisman winner than Eric Crouch.
Right. I would have gotten Crouch. And the reason I would have gotten Crouch is because I remember Crouch going to the Packers, and they just couldn't find anywhere to put him because he wasn't going to play quarterback.
He's not going to play quarterback, no.
Yeah, not then. Not ever.
I just remember Eric Crouch. That was the first Heisman ceremony I remember watching was Eric Crouch. Yeah. That's the only way I'll remember that.
Yeah,
and that will be a trivia question that I can just come up with on the spot.
Right.
But if I was maybe 7, or if I was maybe, 11, 12 years old, I'd have forgotten that one pretty easily.
Right. Yeah. No, I would have remembered Crouch, but I would not have. I would have not remembered Jason White. I would be like, I watched football. I was covering football. I know there were players. I'd have been like, this guy? No. I would have get 1,000 names. I'd have been like, oh, Jason White. No, I wouldn't.
At age 8, man, I
totally forgettable.
I thought Jason White was just so boring compared to how cool Larry Fitzgerald was.
Yeah, definitely.
Larry Fitzgerald was awesome.
Definitely.
Still robbed to this day. Not over that. I'm not over it.
Yeah, I hear you. I still think Peyton was robbed.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Also robbed.
I do, but
Should've
hey.
won it.
So, but yeah, I don't know if Bo and George. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. They were awesome. They were awesome.
They're the best players in the sport.
But I just don't know if in today's world, and I've said that for a few years now, I'm not sure they win the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, honestly, I think in today's world, and I think I told you this the other day, at least for George's year, and again, I'm not saying George didn't deserve it. He did. That's why he won. And he was awesome, and I got to watch it from Williams-Brice Stadium, and it was amazing. The man had 3,000-yard seasons in a row. Anyway, I think in today's world, Herschel wins that Heisman as a freshman because Georgia won the SEC and the national title. And that's what I think would have happened in today's world. I do. And again, that's not a knock on George. That's just a
knock on.
It might be a knock on how voting is.
Yeah.
Like, that guy was good, sure, but his team lost 3 times.
Holds way too much weight in that discussion.
Yeah.
Way too much weight.
So, anyway, have fun with it. Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, start, bench, drop, and we'll continue to update you throughout the course of the afternoon. All right, let's hit a quick break. We'll come back. The EBPI in full effect as Colin Murray Boyles is ready for tonight's NBA draft. Get into a few other draft thoughts as well. By the way, I just saw a tweet go by that the NBA is not going to allow any of its media partners to change logos for 2 teams that we know have made trades that can't be made official yet.
Stupid. How can you make your draft more complicated and confusing to the viewer as humanly possible? That's the question they asked themselves.
Right.
They said, we have an idea.
So remind me again, Phoenix will get the number 10 pick that Houston owns.
Tonight when the Houston Rockets are on the clock, it's actually the Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix will be making the pick, and then it's Atlanta and now Boston.
Yes.
Right.
And then
after yesterday's moves.
And I believe...
Is there another one? There probably is. I just saw Atlanta.
I think the Grizzlies got the Magic's first-round pick.
Okay.
So when the Magic are on the clock tonight, that's actually the Memphis Grizzlies.
Who is it that has like 5 picks tonight in the first round?
That would be the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah. Do you need 5? That's crazy. Anyway, we'll be back. 17 minutes after 4 o'clock on this Wednesday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. 803-404-6100 if you want to participate in today's start bench drop. Heisman-winning SEC tailbacks in alphabetical order. Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker. So we go generational. And by generational, like, you know, depending on how old you are, like when your parents were around, if you're Elijah's age. Or I've seen all these guys as a little kid and then as a father myself. So there's that. And maybe you're somewhere in between.
Very well.
And that's why Elijah asked you, if you want to include your age, we're not judging you. I promise. Well, I'm not.
I'm not either. This is an exercise.
Okay. I mean, do I know you're not? I mean, you say you're not.
I say I'm not.
Which one of us is more believable when we say we're not judging anybody by telling us their age?
I'm afraid I might be the hardest to believe.
Yeah, okay.
Because there is a plague.
I wasn't going to say anything.
There's a plague in this building that when I say something, people don't think I'm being serious. Because I remember when we were at Pro Swing and, off air, our promotions director, Jeannie, was talking about, hey, we need to give away Jason Isbell tickets. And I remember being like, Jason Isbell tickets? We have Jason Isbell tickets? I'll take some of those off your hands if you don't mind. And I was talking about it, and Wes Mitchell looks at me and goes, are you being serious? I can't tell if you're joking or not. I can never tell if you're joking or not.
I like to do that to people, and you and I share that. We do it in different ways.
Yes,
but there are definitely times when I will say something very intentionally with the look of sarcasm, or a thought of sarcasm, but not outwardly showing it, and then I have to explain. And the people that know me will often know I'm doing it, but if you don't, then sometimes I'm like, oh, I gotta.
And I had to convince poor Wes that I was being serious.
Yeah. You had a good time that night.
Oh, it was such a good show.
What was that, like,
man.
that was in April?
Yeah. I think it was late April.
Yeah.
Late April.
I got a couple more here. You want me to give you a couple?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our boy John. Thank you, John. Start Bo. Bench Herschel. But I love this. Drop King Henry. I mean, he gives him mad props.
He does. Yeah.
But you got to drop him.
Somebody's got to be dropped. That's the exercise.
And David says, start Bo, bench Derrick, cut Herschel. Okay. That's just a couple, so we'll do that.
My boy Craig on the YouTube stream, he has admitted he's 51.
Okay.
And his list is starting Herschel, benching Bo, dropping Derrick Henry.
All right. That sounds generational for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm in my 50s. I'm not telling you that's how I'm lining them up, but I can appreciate that level of thought.
I'll go ahead and even drop mine right now. Elijah Campbell, here, age 30.
Okay.
I am starting Herschel, benching Derrick Henry, dropping Bo Jackson.
Okay.
And I'm only taking into account what they did on an SEC football
in the SEC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bo Jackson's arguably the greatest athlete to ever walk this.
I think he might be.
Yeah,
I think he might.
I don't think that's hyperbolic.
I don't want to take anything away from the great Jesse Owens in the 30s or Daley Thompson of England, who won like back-to-back decathlons. I get how athletic men like that are. I'm not here to shirk that. If you said, Jay, you think Bo Jackson could have won the decathlon? I do.
Because he's
in fact, I'd like to see Bo Jackson like throw the shot and the javelin. I'd be like, hey, if you're in row X.
You might want to evacuate.
Because I've seen Bo throw a baseball from like the warning track to home.
And put it on a rope.
Yeah. God. Again, man. All-star baseball player, all-pro football player.
It's one of those things I wish I was alive
winner.
for that. I wish I was alive for that. But they, as it pertains to Herschel Walker too, I mean, those stories your parents tell you when you're really young about things they saw, and then it's almost like they get more Paul Bunyan-esque over the years when they keep retelling that story.
Yeah.
That's my dad with Herschel Walker running over Bill Bates, because my dad was at that game. My dad was in that end zone. My dad was maybe 75 feet away from where it happened.
How old was he then?
He would have been.
Was he like high school, college then? Or?
College. He'd been about 20, 21 years old.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So he was in Neyland Stadium for that game.
Yeah.
And as a kid, my dad has probably told me the story 1,000 times.
Right.
And with each passing story, Not only at first,
Bill Bates is buried more in the ground.
I was getting ready to say, yeah, Bill Bates had to be, it goes from Bill Bates got run over to Bill Bates had to be carted off to Bill Bates is buried underneath, Neyland Stadium to when people say that bodies are buried under Neyland Stadium, they really just mean Bill Bates. Right. The next telling, it's Bill Bates' soul left his body. I mean, I've heard him tell that story so many times, and you would have thought that my dad saw Bigfoot that night.
It's funny that you say things like that, because to flip it, and you'll appreciate this, like, what Tecmo Bowl is. I'm not sure if you've ever played the old Tecmo Bowl on the, original NES from the late 80s, but Bo was on Tecmo Bowl, and they didn't have NFL teams, and they had, I think they could call them Oakland or whatever,
They could do the city name.
But, for instance, last year, I guess, with Nick Harbour having, the 99, and I don't know what Travis Hunter was or anything like that, right? But, Bo on that game was ridiculous, And, of course,
code,
graphics and whatever else are not what they are today. But in terms of, you want that guy.
Well, I can imagine there were countless households in America where there were rules set in place that you could not play with them.
Yeah. Because it was unfair, And the funny thing is, but my roommate and the guy who was my best man in my wedding, Michael Snyder, was a huge Raiders fan too. So it was always that was his team, and I'd get Denver, and they had John Elway.
John Elway wasn't Bo Jackson.
No, he was not. No, he was not.
Could John Elway tackle?
No, he.
That probably didn't do you any good.
Didn't matter.
Wasn't gonna matter.
Hit us up with these. We'll have some fun with it. All right, let's turn our attention to the NBA draft, which is tonight in New York City, officially in Brooklyn, which is part of New York City. But look, Cooper Flagg's going number one. And, then there's some debate for a few places here or there. We'll focus on Colin Murray-Boyles for right now. Then we'll come back around with some of Elijah's thoughts. But more than anything, I think what people are interested in from your perspective, and I know I am, sir, is the fit. He's going to be a first-round pick, but then what? Great, yay, first-round pick. What happens next? And so much of that is what the team has, what the team still needs. So what are the fits? What are your, if you could place him, give me, why don't you start bench, drop the nut in? But if you could place him, what are you looking at?
I've got a top 5 list here. Number 5, I'm going with Toronto Raptors.
Okay.
The Raptors are going to be picking at 8. They could use some more forward stability. I think the only hesitation I have is that a lot of their guards are ball dominant, but that also they don't have a lot of catch and shoot guys. I mean, Grady Dick is a catch and shoot guy from former Kansas player. RJ Barrett's pretty ball dominant, but I mean, you can use RJ Barrett in a pick and roll with Colin Murray-Boyles, and if they had, more outside spot shooters, I think that's going to help the offense a little more. And defensively, they absolutely, they need him. They were 17th in defensive rating, and he'd be teamed up with someone like Jakob Poeltl, who's the center there, and he's a stretch big a little bit.
That is a real person, isn't it?
What do you think?
I'm just making sure. Why does Toronto always have their names like that?
Jakob Poeltl doesn't shoot a ton of threes, but he's somewhat of a threat. So, the floor spacing, not maybe ideal, but I do like that he'd be on there with a bunch of other guys, and one of them, Scotty Barnes, is a really good playmaker himself. I think a Scotty Barnes, Colin Murray-Boyles, pick and roll duo would be pretty fun to watch. Number 4, I'll go the Bulls. Now, the Bulls, that might be the only teams in the Eastern Conference that, even though the conference is seemingly wide open because of all the injuries that happen in the playoffs, that even their own fan base doesn't like their chances of making the playoffs. But then you do pair him with a legitimate stretch 5 with Nikola Vucevic, and Vucevic's last year of his contract. I think he provides a defensive toughness that the Bulls were really lacking, and the versatility too. Vucevic is a solid center. Defensively, he's a decent shot blocker, but he can be a little bit of an issue whenever he's pulled away from the rim. 3, I'll put the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I would have it higher if they didn't have a starting center right now that plays the exact role that Colin would be playing.
Right.
And they just signed him last offseason. And I want to say there's about 2 more years on that deal. Colin would be coming off the bench, guaranteed, but he would be putting himself in a position where he's on a team that's going to win. He's going to get he'll still get playing time. But Isaiah Hartenstein's kind of playing that role that Colin would be playing if he was starting.
Not only did they sign him to a nice deal, but was he making 27?
He's making $27 million. Yeah. A pretty good living. Number 2, the Atlanta Hawks. This is the one I've warmed myself up to the most.
Right.
Because they've got spot-up shooters. They've got guys that are really good cutters. Jalen Johnson is a great cutter, great size, a guy who can finish at the rim.
Can I pause you real quick? How does the deal that was made to send Porzingis to Atlanta in any way maybe alter what this looks like to you? Or is this why you've made this even more concrete, perhaps?
I would make this more concrete because now he's got a stretch 5.
Okay.
I think the stretch 5 aspect of this, because when you add Porzingis, you are getting a center that's going to space the floor in a way that Colin couldn't. So a team doesn't have to worry about floor spacing. They can just let Colin play make, especially out of the short roll. Every team that plays the Atlanta Hawks, they blitz ball screen so the ball can get out of Trae Young's hands. You can't blitz a ball screen with someone like Colin because he can get the ball. If Trae Young can make that pocket pass, which he can get the ball to Colin. You have a 4-on-3. They've got enough guys around him where he can kick it out to a shooter. They got enough, cutters where offensively he's a really good fit there, and they're going to need him defensively. I think his offensive game's probably highlighted the most if he gets to play in Atlanta. But the best fit for me is if the San Antonio Spurs take him.
Ooh.
Because not only does he have a stretch big to play with, Victor Wembanyama, who's kind of a unicorn in his own right, Wembanyama might be the best defensive player in the game right now. And if you have a defensive lineup with Colin Murray-Boyles and Victor, a lot of margin for error on the defensive side of the ball. And there are some guys on that team that can catch and shoot. Offensively, there might be more to have to work with, but the defensive upside makes it a really intriguing fit. I mean, that would be a really fun league pass team. I don't buy a league pass every year, but if the Spurs draft him, I think I might invest in the league pass package so I could watch more San Antonio Spurs basketball.
Well, my former colleague Pearson Fowler, who is as big an NBA fan as you, I used to joke with Pearson that not only does he buy league pass, if they had like league pass 2, which was just like warm-ups and shoot-arounds, he would buy that.
I'd buy, if I got to sit in on the locker room and listen to the pregame speeches, I would buy League Pass too. Yeah.
Yeah. So y'all can work that out. I don't want
We could probably figure that out.
So somebody,
I'll call Adam Silver.
Somebody will pay for it. All right, we'll come back with a little bit more on CMB and a lot of those teams that Eliza just mentioned, all kind of picking in that same group. So, who might need what. And we'll get a few other names in there as well. So lots more to do here. Plus, start bench drop, Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, SEC Heisman-winning tailbacks. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Guys, way too often as you're getting a little bit older, you just something's off. And it's something that hadn't always been that way. But will it fix itself? More than likely not. Or maybe you're just embarrassed. Like, hey, even if it's a doctor, I don't know if I want to talk about this. Don't be that guy, all right? Because you're not alone. And at the men's clinic, they've been helping guys for years with all kinds of problems. Listen, Dr. Dan Balknight and his crew will sit down with you with a one-on-one consultation. They'll get to know you. They'll know everything you do every day and then figure out and prescribe a treatment that's just right for you. No magic pills, no one-size-fits-all. They are experts in healthcare for men dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. So do it for yourself. Do it for your family. Do it for your mental well-being as much as your physical well-being. 803-875-MENS. And learn more at themensclinicsc.com.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. With a few accidents to get to you. They're causing some issues on the roadways. Looks like we have 4 of them right now. One on I-20 eastbound at Longs Pond Road near exit 51. The other at Lincoln Street at Blossom Street. Longtown Road at Clemson Road. And lastly, an accident reported about 45 minutes ago over at Piney Grove Road near Garmany Road.
"25 minutes in front of 5 o'clock here on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Postgame show rolling on. Draft night in the NBA, at least the first round, because I know all of you will be tuned in to tomorrow's. Actually, you know what?
Gripping television.
Here's where you debut League Pass 2. It's tomorrow's second round.
A second round green room. It's got exclusive camera footage, a live feed of the second round green room.
Got a whole mess of snacks over here. Fritos and Doritos.
Janai Brew made an entire box of Cheez-Its before the draft.
I do like Cheez-Its.
Watch it. I have not had a single Cheez-It since I ate the entire box from the Cheez-Its bowl, from the Citrus Bowl.
Okay, by the way, free plug here for the great folks at Goldfish, which have made snack crackers for generations.
It's their thing.
I had never until last week had the Old Bay seasoned Goldfish. My man.
That exists.
Listen, they're so good. I just got, the standard bag of Goldfish that has always been there with a little foil wrapper on the inside. All right, we bought one of those. Basically ate it for a meal. Went back. Have you ever seen the mega carton that looks like a giant milk carton of Goldfish?
Yes.
Brother, I got one.
At first you had my curiosity, Jay Phillips.
They are amazing.
Now you have my attention.
I haven't tried this one yet. I got the bag to see, but Frank's Red Hot Goldfish. So I'll be opening that one here in a day or two, and I'll let you know.
Put that mess on everything.
Yep. But the Old Bay, I seriously went from the standard classic bag of Goldfish, Old Bay seasoned,
to the big boy,
to the carton. Because I was like, "Yup, they were the bomb, dude.
Oh,
they're so good. They're what I'm thinking about doing.
Going from the bag to the carton. That's a pretty big jump.
Because they have the
my
big
grandmother
bag.
with Marlboro Golds. From the bag to the carton, baby. That's how you know a commitment was made. You don't see anyone buying a carton of cigarettes unless they are just so wholly bought in. That's how I know. That is how I realize that I think you're onto something.
That was good. That was good. Because just caught me there. So you said your grandma.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just don't
rip it, though. Those things. She's a chimney, man. And she's a brand loyalist. And I wish I could commit myself to a brand the same way that woman has to her cigarettes. I tip of the cap.
Sure. Marlboro Gold.
But same, yeah, from bag to carton.
Now, is the Gold, I don't know. I've always heard Marlboro Reds are pretty strong cigarettes.
Yes.
So I guess the Gold is maybe a touch lighter, but not a Marlboro Light. I don't know how that works.
Might have been lights. I've never smoked those, but it's the one with the golden thing on the box.
I'm not much. I don't.
But that's her. That's her brand.
Not big on the cigarette, but that's cool if you are. That's your.
Hey, I was for a long time.
That's your call.
Was for a long time, but I don't think I would ever smoke those.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mostly just because
the carton.
It just smells like our house. Yeah.
Nostalgic.
A little bit. Yeah. Sometimes I will go into a house that I know smoked, and I'm like, Grandma would love this.
Yeah. But anyway, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. Again, nothing wrong with original Goldfish. Pizza Goldfish, always a good one. But
I don't think I've ever had like a variance of goldfish. I think I've just had
the pizza one's my favorite. When I had that, I remember those came out when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, let's do that. But now these Old Bay ones might be rocketing to the top of the charts.
Dude, I love Old Bay.
I'm telling you, these things are awesome. Hope your store has one. But I found when I saw the big carton, I was like, should have gotten 2, just in case they run out.
That's your only regret.
Just in case they run out. And don't you worry, kids. I will finish that thing carton size before they go stale. And if not, everybody else liked them too. I just may not share.
See, that's the thing. You do live in a household where
I do,
especially right now.
Right now, everybody's home.
Yep. So they have opportunities to get.
That's right. We'll be going to the beach soon. Probably take those to the beach. Good beach snack.
Oh, it's a great beach snack.
Well, goldfish when your kids are little are great. The only problem is if they drop one on the beach, then the seagulls come over and hound you like pigeons at the park.
Oh, they're waiting and watching.
Yeah, dude, they do, man. They stalk you. That's another reason my wife doesn't like birds, man.
I did finally watch the birds a couple nights ago.
Yeah, did you get freaked out?
A little. I didn't think I would, but
Yeah.
now, obviously it's one of those things where it's not as terrifying,
Right.
knowing the modern advancements in CGI and film.
Yeah.
I have been terrified by other films a lot more than that,
Yeah.
but I was watching it by myself at the house, kept it pretty dark, and I was watching it. I remember being like, that is a little eerie.
It does. It just grows on you. It grows on you that they know what's up.
The anxiousness you get throughout the movie when you realize the attacks are becoming more prevalent, and there's more birds each time.
They just keep coming. They know what's up.
You think Kirby Smart can recruit? Those birds were recruiting. They were hundreds deep by the end of the
They should remake, because I hated I love Vince Vaughn, but I was mad when I was watching
the
Psycho remake. I was like angry.
Oh, it was horrific.
Him and Anne Heche, right? But I got like angry. I was like, there's zero reason for this movie to have been made. But maybe to your point, maybe remaking The Birds.
That was my take. Yeah, my take was if you remade The Birds today, you probably could. You could really psychologically scar children forever, even worse so than you did back then.
Yeah, they didn't need to remake Psycho. That was unnecessary, in my opinion. All right, so latest ESPN mock draft as we continue talking about CMB and his prospects tonight. Again, he'll be a first-round pick. The latest ESPN mock draft has Colin going number 12 to Chicago. And I want you just filled me in quite well on this, but for everybody else, and I won't bore you with too many details, but again, true shooting percentage, is that what you call it?
Yes, true shooting percentage.
They just call it TS percentage. But his is 64%, and that's
elite. That's an elite number.
That's not the best. There's a couple of guys over 65, but just only a couple. And a lot of guys were like 60, high 50s. So give us an explanation of why that makes him even more desirable.
Yes, true shooting percentage is probably the most accurate metric you can get to determining just how valuable somebody's shot is, right? So there's your regular field goal percentage, which is just how much you make from how many you attempt from the field. All shots included. All shots are worth the same. Effective field goal percentage is one of my favorites when it comes to evaluating how good a team shoots from the floor, where it takes into account that threes are worth more than twos, and it's something you can easily figure out by every three-pointer you make. You add 0.5 to, and then every two is just one. So it's 1.5 for every made three, and then one for every made, two. And then there's a formula to that to basically just give you the context that threes are worth more than twos. Mm-hmm. They're at a lower rate, but it kind of makes it where it's even because centers are going to shoot like in the 60s. Your best right. Centers are shooting in the 60s. That tells you exactly if a team or has guards that shoot well enough from three to make the 45% field goal percentage look better. True shooting takes that a step further, where it includes your free throws as well. So free throws are weighted at like 0.25. So it accounts for a free throw being worth one, a two-pointer being worth two, three worth three. So it's a weighted field goal percentage to give you the entire picture of how efficiently somebody makes baskets when the ball just leaves their hand.
Okay. And 64% is?
That's elite. Yeah. If you're above 60 leaving college, you're going to be projected to be a really good pro. And just to give you an idea, too, there are not many guards in the NBA with 60+% true shooting percentage. Like that's Steph Curry range.
Well, so then tell me, and I'm not quite, look, I'm no draft expert or basketball guy to argue with these numbers or these thoughts rather. But one of the things that we keep seeing about Colin is he's just got to work on his shooting, and yet there's a metric that would say he's really good at it. So what are we looking for that's missing?
So what that tells you is that his lack of ability to shoot in college did not take away from his effectiveness as a scorer. The fact that he made only 25% of his threes in college didn't change how efficient he was as a shooter.
Okay.
As a scorer, rather.
Right.
Because he made enough of his free throws, and he absolutely made enough of his two-point baskets. Now, if there's a player like we talked about in the break, Igor Demon, the point guard from BYU, his true shooting percentage is really low because he's an atrocious three-point shooter, and he shoots a lot of them.
Okay.
Now, if Colin was 25% and he was shooting 9 a game, that number's down significantly.
I got you.
So it's a mix of just how efficient you are when the ball leaves your hand leading to the basket and the type of shots you also take.
More on the draft throughout the afternoon. Again, it's tonight, 8 o'clock in New York City. Start bench drop today. Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, SEC Heisman winners. We'll get into more of that and a little Jay or Nay coming up. All right, welcome back in. Final few minutes of our second hour. Headlines of the day coming up at 5, and we'll have more on Colin Murray Boyles and the NBA draft during our 5:15 segment. Start bench drop today. SEC tailbacks, Heisman winners at that. Alphabetical order, your choices: Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker. You want me to give you a few from the Twitters?
Absolutely. I've gotten the first 5 underneath your post I got. So if it's outside those first 5, I have not recorded them.
Oh, let's see. Well, I don't know. Underneath the first 5.
How many comments do you have on that bad boy right now?
This says 7, but there's some that have like dropped it in other places too. So you got so you'd have all right 5.
The 2 latest. Yeah.
The 2 latest will be JM says start Bo,
Starting Bo.
bench Herschel, drop Derrick Henry.
Second most popular so far.
And then Anthony says start Herschel, bench Derrick Henry, drop Bo Jackson. Is that the first? Has Bo Jackson been dropped?
Oh, no. I was the first one to drop Bo Jackson.
You dropped Bo? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the third.
Because you were doing it. Yeah, you were doing it from SEC only.
Yep. Herschel just had 3 years of 1,000-plus yard seasons. Derrick Henry had the best year of all 3.
Right.
His Heisman winning season was definitely the best of all 3 because none of them, the only person in this group that had over 2,000 yards in a season was Derrick
Henry. And he's still doing things.
And he had 28 touchdowns that year.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, mind you, only played 3 years. So did Herschel.
Right.
But only played 3 years. And he only started as the starting running back for one of those years. And for his total career touchdowns, he has 42. Bo had, I believe, 43. Yes, yeah. Bo had 43.
Well, remember, Vince Dooley
and
just
Herschel
believed
had 49.
Vince Dooley didn't give Georgia enough time to score more touchdowns back then. Just run the ball.
Just run the ball.
Look at the scores of Georgia games back then. You know, like how many times in conference play would Georgia have scored more than 30? Probably not too many.
No,
probably
didn't need to.
No, man. Anyway, all right. You want to do a little game show music time?
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah,
I like game show music.
Let's pull that up. Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll see what happens here on a little Jay or Nay.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and start you right here. Jay or Nay? Last night, Chase Burns, his first 5 batters he's ever faced in Major League Baseball, struck them all out. That is the best Major League Baseball debut from a pitcher you've seen in the last 3 years.
Without being able to think about it.
He did end up giving up 3 runs in 1 inning.
Yeah, just... Sure, for the short term. I'd probably like to almost say, like, can I go back and see some other, like, debut performances? But that's pretty cool, man.
I mean, striking out your first 5 batters
5. That's a big deal.
Pretty dominant.
Yeah. All right, we'll give him a J on that one.
J or nay? The Shamar Stewart situation with the Cincinnati Bengals says more about the Cincinnati Bengals than it does Shamar Stewart.
J. It's like a maybe 60-40, but yeah, I mean, I get where he's coming from, but the Bengals are cheap, man. And Langston's told us that.
Doozies.
Yeah. So I'll say J on that. Yeah.
And J or nay, the fan that taunted Ketel Marte needs to be banned for life. And all
double J. And then maybe like thrown into Lake Michigan for a few weeks.
Congratulations, man. You're the a-hole of the year.
Oh, and then some. Hour 3 coming up. Let AAA Heating and Air shine a spotlight on your home's comfort. They're experienced HVAC and electrical technicians here to help. So if you need any of that kind of stuff done, they can get it done for you. Take advantage of up to 12-month payment plans on HVAC or electrical repairs. Don't worry about a credit check. That's right. As long as you have a valid bank account, that's all you need. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Homeowners only for this deal now. Call to schedule your appointment, 803-677-1500, and tell them we sent you. Listen, you need to stay nice and cool. It's hot, and it's going to stay that way. Look, you know that if you've been here a while, or if you just moved here. Yes, it is going to be this hot till Halloween.
Get used to it.
Maybe not quite that long, but it might. I don't know. So just make sure your AC system is ready to go. Again, take advantage of some great opportunities. 803-677-1500. Tell them we sent you. And stay cool with AAA Heating and Air.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. With a few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues here on the roadways, more than last time. We'll start with one on Clemson Road at South Carolina 555 at Faro Road, one on I-20 eastbound at Longs Pond Road near exit 51, 26 westbound, that's over at St. Andrews Road near exit 106, Lincoln Street at Blossom Street, Longtown Road at Clemson Road, Monticello Road, Highway 215 at I-20, and lastly, we have an accident on Piney Grove Road near Garmony Road.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Wednesday. Welcome back in. Also, the final hour of the postgame show along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We start with good news over in Conway. Congratulations to Kevin Schnall. Today, Baseball America naming the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers head coach its National Coach of the Year. 56 wins, the Sun Belt Championship, 26 conference wins, a sweep of Auburn in the Supers, a 26-game winning streak that took the Chanticleers into the National Championship Series against LSU. Of course, they did fall 2-0 with a 1-0 and 5-3 loss to the Tigers. But now College Coach of the Year in 2025. Terrific quote here from star catcher Caden Bodine, who said, quote, "It just never felt like we were starting over. Coach Schnall had already been such a big part of what made Coastal. When he stepped in, it wasn't about filling shoes. It was about keeping this thing going and taking it even further. They were 36-25 in legendary coach Gary Gilmore's last season. Last year, lost in the Clemson Regional, and there were concerns, and there should be concerns. It's hard to follow the guy, and we've seen that here in Columbia. A lot of schools have seen that, and how difficult that is because of what fan expectations were. Perhaps, a little bit of a different dynamic over in Conway relative to, say, what our guest earlier today, Chad Holbrook, took over. And, the year Chad took over, you had just gone to 3 straight national title series. And for Coastal, it was 9 years ago when they for their only trip to Omaha, which was, again, amazingly successful for them. So, again, a bit of a different dynamic, but that's a school, Elijah, that knows what it's doing. And we'll see what the future holds. I think great things are still in store for Coastal Carolina baseball. It's not going to be lost on Clemson and South Carolina as to what happened for the team in Conway this year. The resources are still going to be far greater in Clemson and Columbia than they are at Coastal, but all of a sudden now you got yourself an interesting competition. Look, Clemson played Coastal twice and didn't win this year. And I don't know what next year's schedule holds. Will Carolina want to play Coastal again at some point? I don't know. Yeah, why not, right? Again, sometimes it's, hey, if you beat them, you're supposed to, and if you don't, what happened? I'm not sure that's the case anymore.
No, if you play a midweek against the team that finished runner-up in the College World Series, I think you're going to be the underdog in that game, brother.
That wouldn't be bad. I don't know. Well, I'll leave that to Coach Snall and Coach Maneri and Chance Miller and Jeremiah Donati to figure out how they want those things to look. We'll see. And that, Eric Bakich and Graham Neff, too, up in Clemson. Don't want to leave them out. Again, they played them this year, so we'll see. But congratulations, Kevin Schnall, the Baseball America National Coach of the Year. Speaking of baseball, last night, the Atlanta Braves did it again. They took care of the New York Metropolitans.
Love the grunt there.
Thank you.
That was good.
They just keep winning, man. 7-4 last night. Braves down 3-0 early, storming all the way back. The Mets did have a chance. They plated one in the bottom of the ninth, and they had the tying run at the plate. But the Braves got it done. So the Braves have played the Mets 5 times this year, and the Braves haven't lost. Tonight, it gets a little bit different because for the first time, I think, since they've been playing this year, the Braves are not the favorite, Elijah Campbell. Tonight, it is New York -155 to the Braves +130. Didier Fuentes will go again for Atlanta, so he's staying in the rotation despite a rough outing in his Major League debut Friday night down in Miami. Young Didier, who's only 20, the young Colombian, that's not here, it's the country.
Yeah,
I think you knew that.
Second O.
That's right,
yeah.
2 O's.
Makes a big difference.
0-1 with a 7.20. He did give up a dinger the other night, too. Struck out 3, walked 1. But Clay Holmes is having a very good year for New York. He is 7-4 with a 3.04, 83 innings pitched, 73 strikeouts, and 31 walks, 7-10 tonight. So, Elijah or Nay, do the Braves have a second straight?
There's got to be a better way to say that.
Well, I had to come up with
Nailed it.
something.
Yeah.
Had to come up with something.
Here's Elijah or a lie. The Braves.
Okay, yeah,
the
something
Braves
I'm sure.
completing another season.
I just trying to stay with the theme as best I can on the fly here.
It's tough. It's live radio. But, I think they do it. The Braves have found their pinata, man. Everybody's got one. And it can't all be the Colorado Rockies this year. So, I say they do it.
Rockies have beaten the Braves more than the Mets have. Twice.
They have. They have.
Twice.
And they played the same amount of series against each other.
That's right.
And even if they lose tonight, they will. If the Mets win tonight, they will still not have beaten the Braves more than the Colorado Rockies.
That is correct, sir. That is correct.
Those are facts.
College news now. Texas State, according to ESPN's Pete Thamel, Texas State is expecting an offer to join the new Pacific 12 Conference. The talks, he says, have intensified over the last 24 hours, although a formal offer has not yet been delivered, but it is anticipated soon. It would be the next step in the process. These two, the entities, Texas State and the Pac-12, have been talking for a while now. By the way, Texas State is currently in the Sun Belt, and according to Pete, he says that school officials have informed the SBC that they are expecting to leave. Let's see. Pac-12 officials have also apparently spoken with folks in the Sun Belt Conference to let them know we're probably getting ready to invite one of your members. Where's the Sun Belt headquarters? I should probably know that, but I don't. Birmingham? Are they also in Birmingham?
I don't think it's in Birmingham. Maybe Mobile.
I don't know.
Let's see. Let me double check.
Texas State's here's one of the reasons this needs to happen now, and by now, like before next Tuesday. Texas State's exit fee to join the Pac-12 next year doubles from $5 million to $10 million on July the 1st. This is like the reverse kind of buyout. For formal board approval and to avoid the buyout, Texas State's invitation, according to Pete Thamel, would need to come this week. If it happens, Texas State becomes the league's 8th football member, which the Pac-12 must have if it wants to operate as an FBS conference. And you may have seen, oh, Jay, don't they have a Gonzaga? Yes, Gonzaga does not play football.
Nope, too small of a school.
So the Zags will be part of the Pac-12 9. I don't know if they're adding anybody else anytime soon either. That's the thing about it. I still thought Memphis would be a good addition, but apparently Memphis's fees to leave the AAC are simply too high relative to what the new Pac-12 is going to pay out. And apparently the new Pac-12 is going to pay out in the neighborhood, at least initially, of $10 million, which makes you really feel badly for Oregon State and Washington State, who were making in the mid-30s. And I realize mid-30s wasn't what SEC or Big Ten is getting.
Well, that's 3 times more than what you're
getting
now.
But still, man, that is a lot. Now, remember, for those two schools at least, they got to keep a chunk of change when everybody was paying exit fees. And all of a sudden, they were the 2 left standing. So some of that money is going to be redistributed. Some of that money, as I understand it, too, is going to help some of these schools enter the league and defray costs of leaving their current conferences and things like that. But Texas State will be part of the new Pac-12, which will have, for now, 9 members, 8 playing football.
The Sun Belt headquarters are in New Orleans.
Oh, okay. That's a fine town.
Been there once, loved it.
Yeah.
Can't wait to go back in October.
And what's the, let's see, the rest of the football membership, by the way, for the Pac-12, starting in 2026, so, a year from now. Again, the aforementioned Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, Utah State, Fresno State, and Texas State.
And Gonzaga in basketball. That'd be a great basketball league.
It is a solid league. But San Diego State's good. Boise's all right.
And in hoops, you can do a true round robin that way.
Yeah, I like that.
You can get 16 league games in. Everybody sees each other twice.
And where Texas State, I know, I can't remember the town.
It's in Texas.
But I think it's down. No, I think it's down like between Austin and San Antonio or something. It's like down that way. I can't remember the exact town, but I know it's geographically down that way.
San Marcos.
San Marcos, thank you. It's a big school.
It is. It is a very large school.
It's a big school.
Large enrollment.
Yeah. I mean, I think it maybe is mostly kind of a commuter school. But sort of like UCF when they joined the Big 12, man, it's a big, big school, more than 40,000 kids. So there you go. Anyway, there's some college news for you. And finally, of course, the NBA draft is tonight, and Elijah will have more of a breakdown on Colin Murray-Boyles for us coming up in just a bit. But tonight, it looks like this. The Dallas Mavericks have the first pick. I'll give you the top 10. Spurs will pick second. Sixers third. Hornets fourth. That's right. Charlotte still has a team, kids. Jazz are picking fifth. Washington sixth. Sadly, Washington still has a team as well.
Somehow.
Speaking of New Orleans, the Pelicans pick seventh.
Still has a team.
They do.
They were the Jazz a long time ago.
And Zion is still there. Brooklyn, the hometown team. That's where the draft is tonight, in their gym, if you want to call it a gym. They pick 8. Toronto picks 9. The Phoenix Suns, via the Houston Rockets, are picking 10th. So there you go. All right. Real quick, before we move on out of here, speaking of Texas State, Brian wants to weigh in real quick. Yes, Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks.
Good. I'm in my car on the way home from work, so I can't look it up what city they're in. But with Texas State joining the Pac-12, will the SEC have teams that are farther west than the farthest east Pac-12 team?
Ooh, let's look that up. I tell you what, give me a second to pull up the maps, and we'll find out if Norman or I think College Station is slightly east of this city.
Of San Marcos.
Okay, and I don't know about Norman, so we'll look up from a longitudinal standpoint where exactly Norman will be.
That's an intriguing question.
But that is an interesting.
Yeah, just when you were mentioning it, them joining the Pac-12, I was thinking about that. And like I said, I'm on the car on the way home.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and hang up and listen to y'all.
We will look it up for you. We will do, as we say in the business, we will effort that information.
Yes,
it's an industry term.
It's an industry verb.
And we will then let you know on the other side of the break. So with that, that's our integrated media headlines of the day. So coming up, not only more start bench drop, not only more EBPI breakdown of Colin Murray Boyle's prospects in the NBA draft tonight, but a little conference geography, which I love geography.
I do too. One of my favorite trivia categories.
I love geography. So we'll do that. I appreciate the call, Brian. You're listening to the Postgame Show. I love spontaneous learning like this. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show here on a Wednesday afternoon. We'll get back into start bench drop. Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, SEC megastar, Heisman-winning tailbacks. And, again, Elijah helping us break down what's going on with the NBA draft, especially South Carolina's Colin Murray-Boyles, who, by all accounts, will become the first Gamecock taken in the first round of the NBA draft since Ronaldo Balkman to the Knicks back in 2006.
He is 20th overall.
Yeah, Balkman is great. Isaiah's a bum. Try to find that on YouTube for me, will you?
I'll see if I can find
this
that.
2006 Knicks fan complaint or something like that. You could probably just type that in as your search. So Brian just called us, and we were just giving you a story in the headlines that Pete Thamel is reporting that Texas State University of San Marcos, Texas, over 40,000 students, will become the newest member of the Pac-12, or is expected to, here in a matter of days. Both the school and the Pac-12 have notified the Sun Belt Conference office that they are expecting this, and then Texas State will pay an exit fee of $5 million. But Brian asked us, with Texas State joining the Pacific 12 Conference, would there now be a school that is east of the westernmost school in the SEC? Now, College Station is a little more east, but, Brian, this may blow your mind, man. The answer is no. But the answer is no like this. San Marcos, Texas is at 29.52 degrees north, 97.56 west. Norman, obviously a little more north, is 35.13 north, 97.26 west. They are basically on the same line, but officially, Norman is just a smidge. Like, I don't know how you measured it. I'd like to find out exactly, like,
it's the length of a hopscotch chalk.
Yeah, like, yeah, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at like
east.
Are we looking at like a mile? I don't know enough about like cartography or any of this to figure out exactly how much distance that actually is from like town center to town center. But 97.56 west is San Marcos. 97.26 is Norman. So San Marcos, again, a just whisper more west than Norman. So the answer is no. All of the schools of the Southeastern Conference are east of San Marcos, Texas.
But not by much.
But not by much at all.
Because I thought I could just go on Google Maps and just map distance between Norman and San Marcos. And when you do that, it's a straight line down, brother. It is directly down. So we had to break out its coordinates to really get you a finite answer.
And just for the sake of the discussion, as I mentioned, College Station is more east. Also, not by much, but more. 96.18 west. So a little more east, but not by a lot.
Not by much.
Not by a lot. So I don't know if that's I don't know. I mean, I don't think Brian had an angle on that. I think he was just, I think that's an excellent natural curiosity question.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Because it would be really funny if the SEC had a team that was further west than the easternmost Pac-12 team.
Well, again, once the speaking of cartography and just moving things, I mean, the Pacific Ocean no longer really exists when it comes to Berkeley and Palo Alto.
Nope. They are Atlantic Coast Conference, stalwarts.
Let me do that again.
Cal and Stanford.
R.I.P. Pac-12, man. I just, and I got no dog in that hunt. I got cousins that went to Oregon and Oregon State. That's about it, man. I mean, but R.I.P. Pac-12. Why did the Pac-12 have to go away? God, talk about like bad leadership in the NCAA. Bad leadership in the Pac-12. Didn't need to happen. But man, that's a tight one. Good call, Brian. Thank you for asking us that. I'm glad we learned it. And again, I don't know how many, is that like a mile? Is that 2 miles, 5 miles? I don't know. I don't know enough about how to read that. I don't have time to do more homework on exactly how much distance that actually is. But there you go. Good question. And now I need to know what is Elijah? What is Texas State's mascot?
I believe they are the Bobcats. The cat's named Bob.
Okay,
Yes, they are.
Bobcats. I wish they had a more original name.
The Robert Cats.
Well, just something more Texas.
Like
Well, I don't know. I guess how many bears are
the
really
Texas Big Hats.
How many bears are in Texas? And Baylor bears. There's probably some bears in Texas, but probably not too many.
Rattlesnakes have been good.
Yeah, rattlesnakes. Frightening, but good. I think Mustangs has got a good Texas name. Longhorns, a good Texas
Yeah,
Aggies
certainly.
is a good Texas name. I don't know what a Red Raider is. I guess that has some historical context.
Yeah.
Horned Frog, that's a good Texas name. I don't know about Rice, but the owls, owls. I just like owls. There's
Yeah,
a
a
big
lot of
old owl in
times.
our backyard the other night, man. My daughter and I were out there, my youngest and I, and she was like, dang, Dad, that sounds like a big owl. I was like, it sure does. Right here in the city, too.
Anytime somebody asks who a lot, anytime somebody is repeatedly asking
Who?
I'm like, who? Are you an owl or something? Like
I see what you did there.
the same way anytime I would talk to my dad about doing something and refer to it as we, and he would immediately say we. I didn't know we were French.
Huh.
He'd hit me with that all the time.
Nice.
Used to make me so mad.
Well, now I'm just glad I got to laugh about you talking about your grandma buying Marlboro Golds or whatever cigarettes by the cart.
I mean, the same way you went from, the same way you graduated to the carton of goldfish.
In one stroke, man. Like there's no hesitation, no middle
Yeah,
ground.
she was the same way.
Yeah, it's like going from college baseball straight to the bigs. Bob Horner, Pete Incaviglia,
Yeah, that's what Grandma
Dave
was.
Winfield, straight to the bigs.
From the package to the carton.
Smoke 'em
When you know, you know.
Smoke them if you got them. All right, Colin Murray Boyles tonight. Again, should be the Gamecocks' first round pick in 19 years. And if you missed it earlier, Elijah was breaking down not only his game, but maybe his fits. The latest ESPN mock draft, which came out just a few hours ago, it probably has obviously the latest intel as well. I would think Elijah has him going to the Bulls, and that you gave a top 5 team list. So let's do that again. But that group, just after the top 10 picks is a group that feels like that's where Colin's headed.
Absolutely. And the teams that I've got mentioned here, I've either seen, mocked or they're in the range that Colin's going to be in. And number 5, I said the Toronto Raptors. I like some of the pieces they have around them. I love Scotty Barnes, but Scotty Barnes is a primary ball handler, playmaker, decision maker. That would be an interesting fit to pair him in a pick and roll combo, but there's a lot of guys that can do well off ball. He's got guys that are good catch and shoot players on that team. I'd like to maybe see a little more of that. That's why I kind of have him at 5. He doesn't have a stretch 5 to play with. And if you were to have a lineup with Colin Murray Boyles and Jakob Poeltl, it's probably going to be a little more congested in terms of spacing. 4, I had the Bulls. The Bulls are pretty dysfunctional, but from a basketball fit, you do pair him with a stretch 5 in Nikola Vucevic. You put him on a team that really needs defensive help, and he's going to get a lot of playing time because they need that defensive boost. Number 3, the Thunder. Now, while the Thunder might be the best for him because you get to be on a team that's probably one of the best run organizations in the NBA. And the Thunder, I know if he falls to that spot, I think the Thunder take him just because of the affinity that Sam Presti and that organization has for a lot of the advanced metrics that Colin rates incredibly high on. I think that they would take him, but the only reason I don't have the Thunder higher is because him and Isaiah Hartenstein basically have the same player prototype, and he would be playing behind Hartenstein a lot.
Would that be good for him, especially on the team that just won the title?
It could.
It allows him to ease his way in more and might offer a big. I mean, what kind of minutes? Look, these would be minutes that would probably diminish come playoff time for Colin, right?
Yeah.
But maybe significant, or allow him to blossom more. In that back-to-back night in I don't know, December and January.
Yes, that'd be a great opportunity for him there. That you could save some of the miles on Hartenstein, and you could probably, because you can play him in a lineup with Chet Holmgren because Holmgren is a stretch forward, right? I mean, they played him at power forward a lot, quote unquote power forward, but he's a big that will stretch the floor, and you can play Colin closer to the basket. You can have him in a ball handling role. It's just one of those things that most screeners, when SGA has the ball, he's usually not giving the ball up in a lot of pick and rolls because he is such a good scorer out of those actions. 2, I have the Hawks because Trae Young is a great passer out of those situations. A lot of teams that play the Hawks, because really if you look at the centers the Hawks have had over the years, you think of Clint Capella. Now, that's a guy who's great at catching lobs, a much better lob catcher than Colin. Probably will ever be at this level. I mean, Clint Capella's carved out a decade-long career in the NBA by just having super long arms and catching any lob that's near range. But in terms of spacing the floor, like Clint Capella couldn't space the floor if the three-point line was at the free throw line. Like, I mean, he's that bad.
Colin does have a 7-foot wingspan, though. That's nice.
Colin, yeah, and that's going to help him a lot. Yeah. Teams are going to love that. I think teams will overlook maybe the height fit at that position when they look at how long his arms are, and that's what helps make him so good defensively. But the Hawks also just traded for Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, they got Porzingis.
So you put him in a lineup with Porzingis. That's a spot-up shooter. That's a center. You can use.
And do we think Trae Young's hanging around Atlanta? I mean,
I think so.
Okay.
I think they'll pay him the money just because you're not going to attract a lot of free agents that are going to demand like Superman's contracts. But putting Colin in a pick and roll situation with Trae Young, who's a good, really good pocket passer, teams blitz him a lot because of the inability of the Hawks to have a forward to pair with him that's an elite level playmaker. Colin is that. That fits a really good offensive need. And then number one, I would love to see him play with the Spurs. I would love to see him in a pick and roll combination with De'Aaron Fox. I'd love to see him on a team with Victor Wembanyama, who's a really solid three-point shooter in his own right. So you got him with a center that can space the floor. They got some guys that are good catch-and-shoot three-point shooters. I think that one offensively probably will highlight the most of what he's got to offer. And defensively, you put him with the guy who I think is the best defensive player in the world right now in Wembanyama.
Sure.
And if Wembanyama would have played the adequate amount of games to win awards, he would have been the defensive player of the year this past year. So you play him with them. The Spurs only get better defensively because the Spurs right now don't have a lot of really good defenders outside of Wembanyama. They're 25th in defensive efficiency last year. So you throw Colin in that mix, that number's going to get better. The Spurs become more competitive. I like what they're building, and they're going to have the number 2 pick as well. And if you pair him with Dylan Harper, who I assume is going to be the number 2 pick tonight, then you really have a solid pick and roll combo of a couple of guys that are elite playmakers at their position.
Where does Toronto, in terms of that potential, where is Toronto picking tonight? They go...
Toronto's going to be picking 9th.
Think he goes that high?
I think ultimately Toronto goes in a different direction.
And now that Spurs pick, you're not. I know you think that'd be the 14. Yeah, that would not be the 2. Right. I get
Correct.
that. I get that. But yeah, you got the Bulls at 12, Hawks at 13, Spurs at 14, Thunder at 15, and then Toronto at 9. So I mean, how long does he last? That's the thing. And again, what are people saying? And you know how it is. There's a lot of horse trading and stuff like that. Drive around the SEC. More on Start Bench Drop coming up.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. Thankfully, with just 2 accidents to report to you right now, because the accident previously reported on 26 westbound at St. Andrews Road near exit 106 has been cleared, so traffic's moving pretty well in that direction. But we still have 2 accidents that are creating some active traffic backups. One on Clemson Road at South Carolina 555 at Farrow Road, the other at Monticello Road, Highway 215 at I-20.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Wednesday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. We'll continue talking about the NBA draft, which is tonight in New York City, officially in Brooklyn at the home of the Nets, the Barclays Center. Tonight, there are 4 projected, maybe 5. I think Walter Clayton, too, right? Will go in the first round.
I think he'll be a first-rounder.
Yeah. But there are 4 SEC players projected in the top 25. Walter Clayton of Florida is projected at number 28. And we have 30 teams in the NBA, right? So
we do.
The next would be Adu Tero of Arkansas, who's rated at number 32. This is the best available list ranked according to ESPN. And let's see, then Chaz Lanier of Tennessee at number 38, Janai Broome of Auburn at number 40. So you don't necessarily expect Broome or Lanier to move that far tonight. You never know. I'm not going to tell you they won't. And again, the second round of the draft is tomorrow because
For some reason.
I guess they need some content for the NBA channel. What's it called?
NBA TV.
NBA TV. I can't. That's got to be why, right? Is ESPN? I guess ESPN will probably show it.
I think ESPN will still show it.
But tonight's
Or ESPN
now
2.
tonight the first round's on ABC, but it's June, so why not?
Exactly. Good to put there.
But those SEC guys, Trey Johnson of Texas at 5, Jeremiah Fears of Oklahoma, number 8, Colin Murray Boyles, rated number 13, and Asa Newell of Georgia, rated number 19. So I guess technically the top 20. I said top 25, but 4 guys in the top 20, and then Walter Clayton at number 28. So potentially 5. Do you see Tero, Broome, or Lanier making their way into the first round tonight?
I don't. In terms of NBA prospects, I think Lanier may be having the highest upside of those guys because he is such a really good shooter.
Yeah.
And he's really good at moving without the ball. And there's always going to be a room for somebody in the NBA who can be a 40+% three-point shooter and play really good defense. That 3-and-D archetype is one that's probably a little more valuable than what Adu Tero and Janai Broome can bring to the table. I think maybe if Chaz Lanier was 19 or 20 years old, he's probably talked about as a top 25 prospect, but it's one of those things. Chaz Lanier played a lot of college basketball. He's older, and apparently 22-year-olds in the NBA draft are treated like 25-year-olds by Leo DiCaprio. The minute you turn 25, you're undesirable at that point, but for some reason, even though they can help you right now, I think maybe the most likely of those guys that can make a first-round jump would be Lanier, but I still don't see that happening.
Overall, I mean, look, Cougar Flag speaks for himself, and we'll just step away from some of the SEC guys for just a second, just to continue with this. But from what you're looking at, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, again, Rutgers, kind of like South Carolina, not a good year, and yet 2 of the 3 rated players in the draft.
And Harper, I think, is almost guaranteed to go too.
Yeah,
I feel really confident about him going too.
And
the draft really starts after those first 2 picks.
Yeah. Again, Con Knippel at Duke, number 6.
I feel like he's destined to be a Charlotte Hornet.
Maluk, who again,
Come on, Malawach.
No, Malawach. Sorry, I can't ever remember how to say his name. Malawach. Where's he? He's the one from South Sudan that was being a little bit of trouble, but I think that's all been taken care of. at this point in time. And my guy Derek Queen at Maryland, who I had that big shot in the tournament, but questions about his conditioning and desire, which surprised me a little bit.
Not great.
Yeah.
But I could see him going 16 to Memphis.
But again, coming back around to
Shades
Colin,
of Zach Randolph.
And what's expected? I mean, let me ask you real quick. You made some great points about why he could fit so well at Oklahoma City. I know this is a dumb question to ask, but you'll see where I'm taking this. Like, how committed is Oklahoma City to repeating? How much change do they need? Look, everybody wants to win, so they say, but there's always that notion too, especially we've seen it in the NBA of like, I got mine, or maybe the owners say, we got ours. Like looking at Denver, Denver looking in your direction, has Denver, and maybe with the Cronkies, it's going to be a little different than the group that owns the Thunder, Elijah. But, when the Cronkies won with the Rams, they were like, hey, we won. And then for a few years, the Rams were like, now the Rams
picks for veteran production.
Rams may be on their way back up. We'll see. I think they are. I think they are, but we'll see. But with the Cronkies own the Nuggets, it's like, all right, we won, yay, and we have Joker, yay. But are we really committed to winning again? Well, what will it look like in Oklahoma City?
I think what that would do, would someone picking it like someone like Colin would just add to the stash of role players that helped win you a title.
Right.
And they're in a position right now because their best players are so young that it honestly gives them a chance in an era of the NBA that is a lot harder to win in or collect star power because of that second apron. Or for anyone who is confused by the term, I know it's really confusing. Just think of it as like a very hard cap.
See, I told you I thought about my grandmother's Christmas apron.
Yeah, not quite that apron. This one's a little more menacing, enough to where Brian Windhorst referred to the second apron as Satan's jail on Get Up this morning. But if you look at the Thunder's
Satan's
roster,
jail was collectively bargained as well, so do remember that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, so when we're complaining about it, one must remember that this was agreed upon. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be in his 7th year in the league. He's already on contract for a bit. Jalen Williams is still on his rookie deal. And I'm trying to look where Chet Holmgren is. Chet Holmgren, yeah, he's definitely still on his rookie deal as well. You got a lot of guys. I mean, Alex Caruso and Hartenstein were signed last year. They have more years on their deal. Cason Wallace is still on a rookie deal. Lou Dort, I mean, might end up being one of the casualties of the second apron.
Not a real name.
Not convinced. He went from Pascal Siakam denier to Lou Dort denier. But I think what Colin would fit in really well is playing that Hartenstein role, and then whenever Hartenstein's contract expires, someone can overpay for him, and then you can kind of just slide him into that spot. I know
I'm just pulling for Colin to get one of those contracts. He didn't have to give me any of that money, but I'd like to see if Colin gets a $27 million contract, then he's done quite well.
And he can get said $27 million contract per year whenever he's age 22.
Nice.
Which is a pretty good spot to be in.
Gotta have goals.
Just turned 20 this year, right? He just turned 20. He just turned 20 this month.
Yeah.
But I think what that does is that it adds for Oklahoma City a legitimate role player who you can trust on both sides of the floor to be productive. And I think really if Colin's available at 15, if you're Oklahoma City, I don't see why you wouldn't pull the trigger. And knowing what I know about Sam Presti and what he values in college players, a lot of it is production. I would have a hard time seeing Colin fall past 15. I saw Matt Norlander had a mock draft that had Derek Queen taken before him, I think by the Thunder too. And that's one of those where I'm like, that is a little out of the footprint of what Sam Presti does, especially considering some of the questions that you just mentioned about Derek Queen. Derek Queen, good defensively, just doesn't have the same versatility that Colin does on the defensive side of the floor. And Derek Queen's nowhere near the playmaker Colin is. Yeah. I think Oklahoma City wouldn't let Colin slip past their grasp if he falls to 15.
Draft officially begins tonight at 8. I can't tell you that I know the spacing in between picks and about where to start, but if just go ahead and tune in. But anywhere from probably 8 to 15 is where that's the general expectation tonight for Colin Murray-Boyles. So good luck. And I know Chloe will be up there with him. His family will be up there with him. Again, it's in Brooklyn.
It's an exciting night.
Yeah, it's a big deal, man. Again, Gamecocks haven't had a first-round pick in 19 years. And, I don't know if there's one on the horizon at this point. Is Eli Ellis going to become that? Cam Scott going to become that? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But Colin is that. So we'll find out tonight. All right, we'll come back on the other. That's our drive around the SEC, by the way. More about the drive around the NBA draft, but hey, we threw SEC players in there for you. We'll come back. We'll give you our start bench drop on SEC Heisman winning tailbacks in alphabetical order. If you want to still weigh in, you have time. Derrick Henry, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker. We'll do a little Jay versus the internet as well. It's the postgame show. Integrated Media is Columbia's leader in today's technology for your home, not just your home theater. Yes, they specialize in that, but they are now so fantastic at helping you integrate everything that you want to do in a smart home type of environment. Your thermostat, your lights, your security system, all in one place on an app on your phone or tablet. If you're building or remodeling this summer, make sure you call Integrated Media first. Have them work with your contractor to make sure that everything is done right the first time. I'm so glad we did that at my house. And believe me, while we were doing that a few years ago when we remodeled, I heard the boys telling horror stories of construction thing where a contractor would say, "Oh, no, don't worry, I got a guy." Remember, they told me one story about a guy who everything for sound was all the left channel throughout the entire house. Had to go in and dig it all out. Don't be that family. Call Integrated Media for all your home theater needs and so much more. 803-948-8327. The best is Integrated Media. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show here on this Wednesday afternoon. Tomorrow we'll have reaction to wherever Colin Murray Boyles is picked and dig more into that for you. Maybe we get to talk about the Braves sweeping the Mets. I don't know.
I think we do.
I hope so. Real quick, I want to say this, and I'll be very fast about it, and we won't dwell because we got other things to do. Just being reported here in the last little bit that the Yahoo in question last night who screamed some terrible things at Ketel Marte in Chicago is a 22-year-old, says he was very apologetic and remorseful after the fact, admitted to being very inappropriate and stupid with his comments. This according to ESPN's Jesse Rogers. He said something horrible about Marte's mother, who died very tragically about 8 years ago. So I just, look, if you want to yell things, that's fine. Hey, ump, you stink. Hey, ump, take your sunglasses off. I'm you know what I mean. But
right,
how your brain goes there
to personal tragedy.
Yeah, I just don't get it, man. And there's no play. People say, "Oh, I bought a ticket. I can say what I want." No,
nope.
You know what? You can't.
You still got to go by rules.
And the kid's been banned indefinitely from all 30 Major League Baseball parks.
Good.
So we'll see how that goes. All right, start, bench, drop. I'll go first this time because you went first yesterday, so it's my turn.
Yep.
I'm doing it like you. Well, you've already done yours. Yeah, I said never mind. I guess I'm lying. You can repeat yours then.
Teller of falsehoods.
I am like you. I'm going to do this strictly through the lens of what I saw in the Southeastern Conference, and I am going to start Herschel Walker. I'm not sure there's ever been anyone like him. Yeah, I mean, 3 years, 3 SEC championships, a national title. Everybody knew where the ball was going every time. Nobody could do anything about it. Herschel Walker. Then this is hard, man. I'm like you. I'm going to bench Derrick Henry, and I hate doing that to Bo because I'm a child of the '80s. But in the Southeastern Conference, I like what you said there. The parity was a little bit different, and you helped sway me a little. This one's really hard though because I thought the whole time I was going to go Walker, Jackson, Henry, but I'll drop Bo as an SEC Heisman winner. Now, if this were the best athlete you've ever seen and what he did once he moved on from the Southeastern Conference, Bo is on top, and you can drop the others. I won't even bench anybody. Just give me Bo Jackson. But for that purpose, I'll do it that way. So there you go. That's hard though because man,
that was kind of my line of demarcation. I think Herschel had the more consistent career over Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry had the best season individually. Yeah. Of all of them.
And I'll give, and maybe a slight nod to the fact that Derrick also won a national title like Herschel did, and Bo did not. So again, you got to find these, and I'm doing it strictly through the lens of their time in the Southeastern Conference.
And we did have a texter who put Derrick Henry number 1 because of how he beat Clemson in a title game.
Okay, there you go.
Carries some weight around here.
It's very, very fair to those who feel that way. All right, real quick, Jay versus the internet. What do we got?
You're only 2 games back now.
Oh, here we go.
Don't let Jay Phillips get hot. You're at 34 and 42.
Break up Jay Phillips. Here he comes.
Has slipped up to 36 and 40. So let's get to it. We have a comment on the YouTube stream that says no, it got deleted.
Okay.
It said the Mets and Braves play doubleheader tomorrow. I'm like, I don't know positively, but Braves Mets.
I have Braves Mets tonight at 7:10.
Okay, still all right. Nothing's changed.
Unless it's been suddenly rained out or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But let's say it is rained out, the next Braves Mets game, if they play a doubleheader tomorrow, whatever. But the next, so tonight, total bases, Matt Olson versus Pete Alonso, battle of the first baseman.
Yeah, Matt's on fire right now. Give me Matt Olson. What the heck?
You say Matt Olson, it was a 50-50 split, so I broke the tie again. Then I said Pete Alonso.
Okay.
Over under 6.5 strikeouts for Max Fried against the Reds tonight.
Ooh. Under.
Jay Phillips says under. 55% of the internet says over. And then who scores the most runs tonight in the AL East? Yankees against the Reds, Red Sox at the Angels, or Rays in Kansas City?
The Rays.
You say the Rays. The internet says the Yankees.
See what happens. Do it again tomorrow. See y'all. And one final note from our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union, a great place to finance your next vehicle. Check out their rates. Go online and look, y'all, and see what your big banks are offering, what the lender or what the dealer, rather, is offering, and then see what Palmetto Citizens can do for you. And I'm telling you, chances are very, very good that you can save a lot of money if you buy your next vehicle through the folks at Palmetto Citizens. They offer terrific low rates on new to 21 models. They've got some fantastic options for older vehicles. If there's maybe a young driver in your life, you want reliable, but maybe, save a little bit on that vehicle. You know how it goes. They can do that for you, too. Many of their payment plans have no payments for up to 90 days. Plus, they can finance over 100% of the retail or purchase price on those new to 21 models, and they offer additional coverage and insurance options dealerships can't beat. Again, apply online, learn more right now at palmettocitizens.org.